And we are back, and as promised, we've got our Congressman Jodey Arrington on line one. Good morning, Congressman.
Happy primary election day.
This is the big day, isn't it?
Yeah, I just couldn't get enough of y'all. Decided we'd call in and do it again.
Yeah, well, and it's a good thing because we always have questions for you. And with primary elections, is there anything that you want to, besides go get out and vote? Is there anything else you want to say about primary elections today?
Well, I think in general, I'd say exercise your right to vote and your civic duty, and take your kids with you and explain to them what it means to live in a democratic republic. Explain to them what popular sovereignty means and the fundamental principle that we, the people, are in charge in this country. And because you can't take it for granted, you can't expect that it's always going to be like that if you don't teach the next generation. And I don't know a better way to do that than to take them to vote. So if you haven't already voted, go to the polls. Obviously, I'd be honored to have your support and to keep fighting the good fight for the future of our country, for a free America, a strong America, and for a prospering West Texas.
Yeah, Congressman, it appears like that the Democrats all got together and had a big powwow yesterday, doesn't it? Maybe some positions were offered.
I think there were some high stake negotiations, and I think there might have been some quid pro quos going on.
You think?
Well, look, they're terrified that Bernie Sanders is going to be the nominee, and I believe he will.
Really?
Unless they steal it from him at the convention, which, of course, many suspect that they will. But I don't think they can stop this momentum he has. I think it's too little too late for Joe Biden, and it's scary that a socialist is part of now one of our two mainstream parties as the lead candidate and potentially the nominee. But I can't think of a better way to contrast the agenda of President Trump and certainly my agenda and those who believe in a limited government and liberty in the Constitution than to compete and debate against a self-ascribed socialist.
Now, my understanding is they're not scared of Bernie Sanders becoming president because they don't think he will. And I don't think they think Joe Biden's going to become president either. But what they're scared of is that with Bernie Sanders on the ballot, they might lose some of their support and lose the House.
Well, that's right. It's the down ballot. I don't think anybody can beat the president on the Democrat side. I do think Biden has the best chance. I think Bloomberg's kind of spoiling that a little bit. And then, of course, Biden has not helped himself any. But you're right. We have 30 Democrats who won in the midterms in Trump districts, and we need 20 seats. And if you have Bernie Sanders at the top of the ticket, you're going to lose a lot of energy. And I think you've got a very energized base for President Trump. And to get Nancy Pelosi a new job and get us back in the majority so we can do the things we did in the last Congress, namely tax cuts and rebuilding the military, getting this economy growing and giving people a peace of mind that they're safe and secure.
Well, I think the Dems are also afraid that Bernie's going to split the party. This is one thing that I heard some of the talking heads talk about, and which to me would be great. We have a Socialist Party and then the Democrat Party, and I think all the Democrat votes would go there, and that'd be a good thing for the Republicans, would it not?
Well, it would be. There are many who lived under the veil of socialism, but they describe themselves as progressive. So I'm glad that at least Bernie's being honest with the people. Unfortunately, the millennials, 8 out of 10 of them, and that's the largest voting bloc in the nation right now, 80 million strong. Now, they don't exercise that right to vote as often as the older generation, but still, the 8 out of 10 of them think socialism is acceptable. So I think this is historic. This election and the ideological clash and the battle for the heart and soul and identity of this country is front and center. And I think it's going to be a real educational opportunity for these young folks that I was talking about at the beginning of this show.
So, Congressman, I don't want to switch gears too much, but last night, Netanyahu, I don't know how much you been following this, but Netanyahu won there in Israel. How important is that to the president and his kind of, I guess, global outreach?
Well, Netanyahu and President Trump are close friends. They have a tremendous amount of respect for each other. They're very similar. They believe in a strong America first with respect to Trump, and Israel first when it comes to. I don't think they put a lot of stock in globalism. I think they believe that freedom comes at a high price, and that you can't have that freedom without a strong defense. So they're both defense hawks in that way, and I think it bodes well. I think just like the new Prime Minister of the UK, I think you're seeing people look at the leaders in the same mold as President Trump and say, man, we've got some things we've got to do at home with respect to immigration, with respect to our economy. Trump has led by example, and I think you're seeing a lot of the electorates around the world respond accordingly.
So even though the news is all negative about Donald Trump, it seems like a lot of countries almost are jealous of having a leader like that.
They are. I think people respect strength, okay? And we lost a lot of respect over in the last administration. We made idle threats. We apologized. We had a policy of appeasement, and it didn't work. I mean, ISIS was created. It is virtually wiped out. This president has been reluctant to engage militarily, but when he does, he sends the message that you're dealing with the greatest military force in the world, and he exercises that. So I think that has kept the world more stable. It's advanced peace more effectively. And I think, again, he's restored America's leadership in the world. He moved the embassy from Tel Aviv, speaking of Israel and Netanyahu. Every presidential nominee and candidate has promised to move the embassy, U.S. embassy, from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. No one's ever fulfilled that promise and done what they said they would do except for this president. And you could go down the list of things that he said he would do that we finally had a president and a leader that made good on those promises.
Yeah, it doesn't just sound good. He actually did it.
Yeah,
that's right.
Congressman, we have a texter this morning that says, thank you for voting against H.R. 2339. I'll pass that along.
Well, thank you. We make a lot of votes, so sometimes the numbers don't mean anything to me if I don't know the title of it. But does he mention anything else about
No, that's
the
it.
subject?
No. So,
okay.
Congressman,
well,
I'm going to ask you, but just because I was going to try to ask you before we got on, but the phone went fried. But are you? I think they said you were going to have to leave about 7:25. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
I could probably go to 7:30.
Okay.
Go to 7:30.
Okay, then let's go ahead and take a break, and then we'll get you on the and come back and talk.
You got it.
Thanks.
And we are back here on KFYO Mornings with Dave and Matt and Congressman Jodey Arrington again on line one. So there are those who predict that Texas will turn blue today, Congressman. Your thoughts?
Texas is going to bounce back big time from the Beto Cruz midterms. You got Trump at the top of the ticket. 8.5 million Trump voters stayed home last election. So the Trump Cornyn all the way down, you're going to see a huge bounce back. There's still a lot of work we need to do to win the hearts and minds of millennials and the Hispanic community, and we need to be leaders in that regard. But you saw the bellwether House special election down in Fort Bend County. That's the one that all the presidential nominee Democrats were down there helping. The guy who won it before, John Zerwas, won by 8 points. The Republican who won the seat recently won it by 16. I think that's a bellwether for how Texas is going to go. I do predict Bernie Sanders is going to take Texas. He's going to take California, and he's going to be well ahead of Joe Biden. About halfway through the primary.
So, Congressman, I know that this isn't the national election yet, but if Nancy Pelosi, if there's enough Democrats that are that win the House, do you think Nancy Pelosi is going to be able to keep her seat either way as the?
You
Sorry,
know,
the speaker.
She'll claim a victory if they were having a thin margin, but I think there's a lot of unrest, Matt. There's a lot of unrest because the vast majority of her members are more moderate, and they are not happy with the way she's governed and led with respect to impeachment, and just the lack of bipartisan effort to achieve things like drug price reform and other things that are achievable on a bipartisan basis. But she's let the squad and the far left dictate a more radical agenda. So I think it's very tenuous for her, regardless of the outcome.
Yeah. So I think you were in this area over the weekend. Was there anything specific that you did over the weekend?
Well, I was in Lubbock this weekend at the Heart Ball, supporting the American Heart Association local chapter and our providers. You know, we're the hub of healthcare for this major Southwest region between Dallas and Phoenix, maybe Albuquerque. We have the most healthcare resources, and I'd say that just having conversations about drug price reform and rural health care. I lead a task force on ways and means to solve the crisis in rural health care. So I always get good input from the folks back home. Was in Abilene before that, talking about the transition between the B-1 bomber of today, and in 5 years, roughly, we'll see the new B-21 Raider. That's the next generation bomber. There's nothing like it in the world, and it's going to be flying out of the big country. And you know, when we talk about elections, I talk about the Farm Bill and the cotton fix, but I also talk about getting the B-21 to Dias and Abilene in the big country. So, I mean, those are both generational opportunities for West Texas, and I'm proud of our work there.
Yeah. I got to take a civic leader tour one year, and we toured Dias and got out there with the base commander and got to crawl around up in that B-1. It is an incredible weapon.
It can be anywhere in the world, projecting American strength and deterrence in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Anywhere in the world. There's not another ally of ours anywhere in the world that has a long-range strike capability like we do, thanks to the B-1 bomber.
Yeah, and one of the most amazing things about it, I was told you could drop a nuclear weapon between the 40s of a football stadium at 600 miles an hour.
You wouldn't want to test this great nation. We're very patient and reluctant, but boy, with Commander in Chief, you wouldn't want to push us to the brink, because he doesn't make idle threats, and our guys can do what you say, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And thank God, America, and a freedom-loving country and a peaceful country like us has that
Absolutely.
capability. And not others, although China is quickly catching up.
Yeah,
So,
Congressman, we've got just a minute or so left. We'd like to just turn the mic over to you and let you talk about what's on your mind this morning.
Well, let me just say it's a blessing every day to be a voice for West Texas. Thank you for the honor. I'm humbled by it. I got a lot of fight in me, and there's a lot of fight to go to get our country back. So go vote. Exercise your constitutional right, and send me back for another 2 years, and let me keep pushing the agenda of freedom for our children and grandchildren.
So I know you're probably going to answer no, but is there anyone in 13 that you're supporting?
Well, I'm not going to endorse anyone, but I will tell you there's some great candidates in 11 and in Mac Thornberry's district in Amarillo area. But now with Will Hurd gone and the other two, I'm the last man standing in the West Texas delegation. But I'm looking forward to the new guys. Again, great crop of talent. No matter how it shakes out, we're going to be okay.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, that wraps it up against the clock. Congressman, thanks so much for calling us this morning. Always love to talk to you.
Good to be with you guys. God bless, and go West Texas.
Thanks.
Absolutely.